Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Patrick Cahill. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business Management Services here at Monroe-Woodbury. And tonight we are kicking off the public component of the budget development process. And we're going to be talking about I'd say the non-instructional, operational components or areas, departments of the budget this evening. With me tonight is Andre Rudiak, the Director of Buildings and Grounds, Joseph Trapoto, the Director of Safety and Security, Jesse Lazar, the Director of Transportation, and Bhargav Vyas, the Assistant Superintendent for Compliance and Information Systems. And I'll just couch this, or put this in perspective to say the budget is still in process. We have not finalized all the numbers. There are components which we're still working on, especially those related to staffing and that sort of thing. So things can change, but this is sort of the first blush, the first look at some of the non-instructional departments. So this is our agenda for this evening. We'll be talking about the budget at a high level and talking about some of the issues that are affecting next year's budget. We'll be reviewing the tax cap, everyone's favorite part of the presentation. And finally, we'll talk about revenue and state aid. We'll go into buildings and grounds, safety, security, central printing, data processing, computer-assisted instruction, library and media, and finally wrap up with transportation. So every year I like to kind of go through and talk about some of the budget challenges and developments that we're encountering. And the good news, I think, this year is that there's nothing dramatic or problematic in this year's budget. The first bullet I have here is the bus purchase, the interfund transfer to capital, which is at the end of the budget. And that's something we do every year. We have a bus replacement program. And in the past, we would generally replace, I would say, 8 to 10 buses each year as part of the equipment in the bus replacement program. We've scaled that back a little bit as we've outsourced certain runs and used contractors for various things. But the challenge, if you will, or question for this upcoming budget cycle is the zero-emission bus. That's what ZEB stands for, mandate, and the zero-emission bus transition plan. So we've talked about that a lot. As the law currently stands, any new bus purchase after July 1st of 2027 should be electric for all intents and purposes, zero emission. So what does that involve? Well, it involves the purchase of a relatively more expensive bus. So for instance, for our type of bus, we were operating on the assumption it would be about $425,000. A typical bus is more like $200,000. We've recently got some actual quotes about would be our first electric vehicle and bus. It was $534,000. We went through the process of having a fleet electrification study done in concert with our architect CPL and the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA. And it was intended to provide sort of a roadmap for the transition. And you know, part of that is a pretty substantial capital investment to essentially reconfigure our entire bus garage. Like the entire area would be reconfigured to charging stations, additional infrastructure for that. Just the entire layout of the area would change. So it's a big deal. And right now this is part of the work in process in the budget. We're still sort of grappling with the big picture budget, what's the size of the increase in the budget, where are we changing, and how much can we sort of afford in the bus purchase area. Another big thing, there's a little more certainty here, is the increase in premiums to our health insurance plan. So the district participates with approximately 20 other districts in the Orange Ulster School District Health Plan. So it's a consortium of school districts, and we self-insure rather than purchase health insurance product in the open marketplace. We use a provider for a network, we pay claims, and so it's a self-insurance process. And the advantage of self-insurance is there's no profit. We're not earning a profit. We can reinvest any profits that a regular insurance company would earn to lower the premiums or enhance the benefits for the membership. So the OU Health Plan, the last few years, the rate increases have been relatively modest, I would say, somewhere in the 3 to 4% range. We've seen kind of a spike in medical claims, and we've seen even a larger spike in the RX, which is the pharmacy component of it. And it's largely due to the GLP-1 drugs. It's one of the theories. Just to put it in context, I have up there, I won't read it all, but the individual health plan is about $15,000 a year. Two-person is $33,000 a year. Family is $39,000. We have a new category, a fourth category, which is a family of 6 or more people. And again, to sort of put it in context, right now an employee of the district pays somewhere between, I'd say, 12 and 15%, for that, and the district picks up the remainder of that. So although it seemed like a relatively large increase, 7%, it's sort of in line with health inflation rates, I think, in the economy generally, and it's still well below. I have NISHIP, that's what the acronym NYSHIP, New York State Health Insurance Plan. It's one of the plans that school districts and municipalities use, the state uses, so the rates of the OU health plan are still below the NISHIP premium. So we're doing well, we're managing the plan well, we're intervening when we can to find cost savings, and part of the 7% increase is to align the revenues of the health plan with the expenses. So we're seeing the expenses go up, and we're trying to avoid a larger spike in premiums down the road. Special education, so this is non-payroll. So we're going to talk about payroll in 2 meetings later in March, but we're seeing an increase of about $1.3 million there. In terms of the retirement systems, the district participates with the teachers' retirement system and the state, New York State, and local retirement system, so TRS and ERS. So there's some good news on the TRS front, where we're seeing a small decrease in the rate. And just to put it in context again, the employer contribution rate is contribution we have to make to the retirement system. So for every dollar that a TRS member earns, and TRS would be the teachers and administrators, certificated staff, for the current year we're contributing about 9.6 cents. So that's the good news. We're seeing a relatively small decrease. We'll also see salaries go up a little bit next year, so that may be a wash. But we're seeing a small increase in the ERS rates from 18 to 20%. Decreasing interest rates, I put this up there. It's related to the revenue side of the equation, and I'm going to talk later on about appropriations and revenue, 2 sides to the budget, which should be in balance. So last few years, we actually reviewed some of these items in our audit committee. The interest rate revenue has been decent, actually. I think last year was about $4 million. And when you look at it in a historical context, $4 million is quite high relative to what it was, 5 or 6 years ago. We're seeing decreasing inflation and rates in the economy, so we're projecting revenue to decrease for next year. The transfer to capital. So transfer to capital, again, is at the end of the budget. And so there's transfer to capital for capital projects, and that's what I'm talking about here. And there's also a transfer to capital for bus purchases. So here we're talking about adding, which we've done, $500,000 to replace the boiler at the Harriman Center. So I won't go into it too deeply, but let's just say that we're operating on a backup boiler, which is very old. And if we're going to keep the building and repurpose the building, it needs to have heat. It's one of the basic elements. We've talked about this with the capital program. The roof needs to be solid. The heat has to be on. The building components need to be functional and operational. So that's part of the budget as well. And I've talked about this in the past. Capital projects in New York State have to have voter approval. So the residents of the community have to approve that. But by including it in the general fund budget and discussing it as we will, and we'll talk about it a little bit more as we get further into the process, when the voters authorize or approve the general fund budget, they also authorize the capital project. So that's another way to have capital projects approved. I have up here use of debt service reserves. So the district has had some funding, and $1.2 million is the final part of this, in a debt service reserve, believe it or not, related to the construction of the high school. And so at some point in the distant past, they issued serial bonds, they had money, they borrowed money, and the expense was less than what they had borrowed, and what you have to do by law is put that excess into a debt service reserve and then use that reserve to pay down the debt service associated with the capital project. So we're about to pay off the high school, retire the debt associated with that next year. So we're applying the final part of the debt service reserve against that in the budget. So that's good news. That would offset increases in the budget and help us lower the tax levy. And then the final piece, this is more of an informational element, is New York State's initiative to expand the UPK program. So at the state level, it's a funding increase of 53%, $561 million, and the goal is to make UPK truly universal. And those, I think, are the governor's words, or not my words, for all four-year-olds by the start of 2029. And the per pupil amount, they're saying it's going to go up to around $10,000, and we're still sort of looking at that. It's a fairly big increase to see if that will truly cover the full cost of the program. But that's something that the state is pushing, and it seems like it will become law. And again, the way this, I'll talk a little bit more about this with state aid, the way this works is these are part of the governor's budget proposals, right? And the final state budget, and I guess it's really just the budget is approved and authorized by April 1. So it typically happens later in March. So this is the first sort of blush. Now, lately, the governor's proposal typically in pretty similar form is what is generally enacted. In other years, there was a little bit more of a back and forth between the governor and the state legislature. But this year, we have pretty high confidence most of these things will happen. So that is the big picture, budget development challenges, cost drivers, et cetera, in next year's budget. Any questions or anything anybody wants to?
Yes.
Okay.
With the zero-emission buses at $534,000 apiece, you're saying that we have to purchase regular buses before July of next year, and then we're supposed to be doing the zero emissions?
The law, as it stands now, Michael, is that any new buses purchased after July 1st, 2027 must be zero emission, electric. So we still are able to purchase, internal combustion engine buses. And there's actually talk, and I think it's actually law, where we can apply for a 2-year exemption, so it pushes the 2027 out to 2029.
Okay.
Now, you have to demonstrate that you've made sort of a good faith effort to comply, and I think there are also some rumblings or some proposals I've heard to even push it out further, like 5 years, from 2 years to 5 years.
Thank you. The other thing is how many years does a typical bus last? Why I'm asking that is, would it be good to do a front-loaded investment while you can, if you get a few more years lead time?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and by that you mean buy more gas and
of
diesel?
the standard ones now.
Yeah, they typically last about 10 years. 10 years. So that is a strategy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I said, we haven't finalized the decisions on the bus purchase.
But I know that could be an option to just kind of, because I know the electrical infrastructure is a huge component of that.
Yes, for sure. Good? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and as I said, everybody's favorite slide, the 2% tax cap. So I will be brief on this, but the 2% tax cap, hard to say, is a limit on the annual growth in property taxes levied by local governments in New York State. So it's applicable to counties, towns, cities, villages, and school districts. And we go through this process, this formula, to come up with the maximum allowable levy. And there is an override mechanism. So for school districts, we have to have 60% plus one voter to override the cap. So in other words, if we went through this whole process, it's pretty rare when school districts do that, and we said we have to exceed the cap for whatever reason. You're able to do that, but you need a 60% plus one voter authorization to make that happen. There are exclusions. I'll walk through the process. Capital is the major exclusion. Capital expenditures net of any state aid. So I won't go through every step in it because I know this is a little tedious, but you begin with the prior year tax levy, which is current year levy, and I have a typo there. It says 24-25. It should say 25-26. We apply the tax base growth factor, which is basically a factor that accounts for, I would say, new construction in the community. They don't want to limit that. If there's a major factory or mall or something that's constructed, they want you to be able to capture that tax base. So that's what that tax base growth factor does. So ours is about a third of 1%, 0.34%. So relatively low. Last year's a little bit higher. We add the prior year payments in lieu of taxes, so that's what the pilot is. We deduct last year's exemptions, which is basically capital levy. We have our adjusted prior year levy, and that's when we apply the allowable growth factor, the 2%. And it's 2% or consumer price index, whichever is less. So it can never be more than 2%. I've talked about this in the past. For many years, this was in place, and inflation was very low. We enjoyed relatively low inflation for a long period of time. COVID hit, inflation started to increase, and it's been sticky. And so that's where the 2% cap has been more of a problem. When you have, inflation that's 3 or more than 3%, you're limited to a 2% increase on the tax levy. So to continue the formula, we deduct the pilots for the upcoming year. We have our tax levy limit, and then we add in the exemptions or exclusions. And for us, it's about $1.5 million, a little lower than last year. And that's, again, related to our bus purchase program, less any transportation aid associated with that, and the debt service that we have, less any building aid. And so that net number is $1.5 million. And there's no carryover. The carryover would be if we had carryover actually last year. If we levied below the tax levy limit, you're able to carry that forward. There is none for this year. So our maximum allowable levy is $136.3 million, or 2.26%. So about 2.25% is our tax cap for next year. Look at the other column there for the current year. The cap was 3.55%, but yet our actual levy increase was only 1.5%. And this is the state aid run. You may have heard that expression, the state aid reports that come out with the governor's budget proposal. And, sort of antiquated looking report, and it has every school district in New York State. And I'll just point to this. So obviously this is Monroe-Woodbury, and the upper half of this column is showing the current year state aid. And I have an arrow pointing to foundation aid, which is the primary general form of aid, operational aid for the school district. And the upper half shows the current year, and the lower half shows the estimated aids for the 26-27 year. And I'm going to go to another slide that shows this a little more clearly. When you look at this, though, it can be a little misleading because currently and in the past they've included universal pre-kindergarten, and what they did last year was actually include the maximum amount we could possibly receive if we serviced every 4-year-old in the district, so it was a little misleading. It still is a little misleading because if you look at the upper half of that column, it shows UPK as 662,434 and 1,100,000 for next year. So that would be if that UPK initiative that I mentioned on the slide, a couple slides before, actually was in effect. And it's also a little misleading because universal pre-K, it's not accounted for in the general fund the way these other aids are. I don't want to get too wonky with the accounting, but it's accounted for with the other grants. So it's really not even part of this, but the state includes it. And I understand why, but we generally back it out. So let me just go to the next slide. So this is showing our projection for state aid next year, and you can see the foundation aid, as I mentioned, is up about $3 million, which is a fairly good increase. Some of the other aids, the BOCES aid, the hardware, technology, software, transportation, those are aids, they're expense-based aids. So they're aids based on what we spend in the current year, and we would then receive aid, there's usually a ratio applied in the subsequent year. So there's some uncertainty with these forms of aid. And The actual way it works is the expense-based aids that we see here are based on what we thought at the beginning of this fiscal year, as we reported our results from the prior year, what we thought we would spend in this year. So, you see these newspaper articles, you see, hey, here's the state aid run. It's an estimate, and there can be a variance in it. And in other years, we've made adjustments to that based, the aid projections, the estimates based on variances. We've done something similar for this year. But as I go down the line, really foundation aid is one of the more stable aids, but even that, we noticed a pretty big deviation from the governor's state aid run to where we are today, almost $1 million. So I won't go through everything, but the high cost, excess cost, and private excess cost aids, those are aids related to special education, and there can be a lot of variance with those. Sorry about that. The hardware and technology, software, library, textbook, those are also known as instructional materials aids. So again, those are spend it and you get it in the next year. Transportation aid is related to, obviously, transportation. We're receiving about 70% back for transportation expenditures. So although we've seen transportation expenses go up in the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years, the upside of that is we're receiving more transportation aid. There can be, that's a pretty big swing from $15.3 million to $18.1. We have seen increases in transportation, contract transportation. Jesse will talk about that more. But that's one that we look at closely because there can be variance. High tax aid, that's very static, $1.6 million year after year. Building aid, again, that's based on capital construction. And as I said, our debt service is being retired next year. We're going to bring on some new debt service with our existing capital program. But this building aid will go down too. And you notice for next year, it's actually decreased by $512,000. And then final line here is the MW state aid adjustment. And I just alluded to that a moment ago. That adjustment literally is a change from the governor's proposal in mid-January of almost $1 million. So bottom line, the budget-to-budget increase in state aid and its budget-to-budget is $5.7 million, or about 6.1%. So not bad. And again, it's a budget-to-budget comparison. You go back to that other report and study that. That's actually what we're going to receive this year compared to what we're estimated to receive next year. So it's a little misleading. So we always do a budget-to-budget comparison. Any questions there?
Yeah, one question. Looking at the universal PK, how come we're getting the least amount out of all the school districts?
Can you say that again, Sergey? I'm sorry.
So 2026-27 state aid reports, universal pre-K, I'm looking at the number that we receive as a school district, and that number is dismal compared to everybody else. Why is that?
Did you say it's different?
Dismal.
Well, it has to do with how many students we're serving. You're talking about this, let's see, this report here? So this number, yep. 662,000 versus?
I mean, the size of the school district is second largest.
Yeah.
And then the amount of money we get for the UPK is?
Well, it's based on the number of pupils being served right now.
But don't we always say that we need more?
Pardon?
Don't we always say that we need more?
I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you speak into the microphone? I'm so sorry.
Don't we say that we always need more?
Well, I think there is a waiting list, and there are folks that would like to participate in the program, and I think that's something that we're looking at for next year, expanding that, especially in the context of the additional state aid that may be available.
Yeah, and so let me just chime in with that. We are expanding, and yes, that number, what you see, does not fully fund UPK. In other words, the money that's allocated is not dollar for dollar. So in order to access that money, in other words, we have to spend money. So it comes with a cost.
Anything else? Okay.
Patrick, I do have a quick question. Where is federal aid stand right now?
Where does
And
it stand?
from a budget standpoint and producing the budget for this coming year?
We have not seen a big change in the federal grants that we receive.
Okay.
Based on the political climate at the national level, really, there's nothing dramatic has happened.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else on this slide? Okay. Okay, so I'll speed it up a little bit. I'm going a little longer than I wanted to. I apologize. So this is the budget triangle, and Dr. Hassler's favorite slide in the deck. So this represents, or attempts to represent, sort of a graphical picture of a budget in balance, right? And the balance, the equality is revenue and appropriations. And appropriations is nothing more than a fancy name for our budget. So on the left-hand side here, we have our revenue. So that was our state aid we just reviewed, $100.3 million. There's a handful of miscellaneous forms of aid that go into our budget, health services, tuitions we charge others, various fees for facilities use and the like. So that's $5.2 million. We're using a tax levy here, $136.3 million, so that's in line with the tax cap that we just looked at, 2.2%. So we have total revenues, and this is all hypothetical at this point, work in process, of $241.9 million. We go over to our appropriations side. We begin here with the current year budget, $236.7 million. We apply, again, hypothetical budget-to-budget increase of 3.5%. The budget would be, the appropriations would be $245.045 million. So in that hypothetical scenario here, it creates a budget gap or an inequality between the revenues and the appropriations. And so a gap like this occurs every year, occurs at state level. New York City, is grappling or was grappling with something like this. And you close the gap in a few ways. Maybe you use every one of the levers. We close the gap by using fund balance, assigning fund balance, which would occur at the end of this year as surplus monies. We could change our revenue projections. Fund balance, another type of fund balance is reserves. It's called restricted fund balance. We use reserves, and that's the nature of reserves, the rainy day fund. So you use those reserves, when you need them, when other expenses are up, or by cost cutting to the budget itself. So there's multiple ways to close that gap. And in this hypothetical example, we probably utilize all those things, and that's typically what we do. And based on that revenue and the appropriations, at the base of the triangle, we have our instructional program. So that is that. The other thing I like to quickly go through, I call this anatomy of a budget code. I know some folks have seen this before. You have budget reports in board docs tonight. You're going to get more reports as we do more presentations. So this is the anatomy of a budget code. It's prescribed by the Chart of Accounts of New York State. So the first 4 digits of the budget code deals with the functional area of the budget. And you notice up here I have buildings and grounds is 1620. We're going to hear about that in a moment. Safety security is 1622, and so on. The object code is the next 3 digits in the budget code, and that deals with the object of the expenditure. So any object code that begins with a 1 deals with salary. Equipment begins with a 2. A BOCES services code is a 490, and so forth. The location code is a two-position code in the budget code, and that's specific to the district. And so for Monroe Woodbury, 01 is our high school, 2 is our middle school, and so on. And finally, the program code is the last 4 digits of a budget code, and that is, again, specific and enables you, for instance, in Monroe Woodbury, we have 4200 as math. So I could run a budget report and just have 4200 as the program code. Everything else would be, we called it a wild card in DOS, a question mark, and I could see all the budget codes and all the numbers associated with math expenditures in the budget. So that's the idea of the program code. So quick overview, upcoming key budget dates. So on March 1, we submit the tax cap information to the Office of State Controller. March 4th, next week, right around the corner, we're going to do another budget presentation dealing with some instructional items, the instructional components of the budget. On the 18th, we have personnel and benefits. April 8th, superintendent's budget recommendation. The projected adoption date by the board would be April 21. And we also would be voting on the BOCES budget on that day. Public budget hearing, May 6th. We mail a budget notice out, an informational pamphlet to residents, and then the important date here is the statewide budget vote date. So it's a statewide date on May 19th. So any further questions?
I
Great.
had a quick question. Just to go back to the buses really quick. You mentioned the quote for the electric buses was $534,000 per bus. What is the cost of a current bus right now?
An ordinary
Yes.
internal combustion
Internal combustion.
engine.
About 210,000 to 230, depending on the equipment that we get with it. So if we have compartment air conditioning, vans are a little bit cheaper, but
So
But a range of 210 to,
210 to 230 was the answer. On the
and then do
ordinary.
we know what the fuel and maintenance costs over 10 years are for it?
we haven't run,
We have a study.
trying to see, like,
Yeah,
what the
no, I
difference
understand.
is.
We went through and it's a fleet electrification plan study. And that was done, which goes into the cost to operate, it goes into the financial component, goes into the routing analysis, operational analysis, capital expenditure required. It goes into the grants and some of the, the other financing that's available. Like, that's literally what makes this even close to how we currently operate. And that is part of it as well. Like, the conjecture is, over time, the operating costs will be lower and less.
Right.
And that in the long run, it helps the environment and there'll be no cost impact. In general, school buses are a very good application of this technology because they operate for periods of time and then they rest, then they're idle, and then they operate for periods of time again and they're idle. So it's actually a good application of the technology. It's not all fully fleshed out. I mean, there are so many layers to the problem. One of the things we got this newer quote. We compared it to the report that we had. We contacted our architect who did it. And part of that was they assumed a different style of bus than we use. Is it a D, Jesse? It's a flat front D bus. And right now, the technology is such that they have the lowest capacity, the smallest battery. So there's a lot of, sort of issues to work through on this. But I could share that report actually with you, and we could discuss it a little further offline.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Okay, awesome. So we have a little more. I apologize if I went long. I'm going to turn it over to Andre Rudiak, our Director of Buildings and Grounds.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me. Oh.
You want to switch?
Sure.
That's good, Andre.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me present the Buildings and Grounds budget for 2026-2027 school year. I would like to begin with saying thank you to my entire department for going above and beyond every single day, for their knowledge, for their expertise, and for their support to the entire district and myself. So thank you all for a wonderful job that you guys all do. Going to the department overview with staffing, currently we have 79 positions in my department, and we're not changing that for next year, so we're maintaining the same staff for our department. Operation and maintenance overview. So the custodial staff cleans roughly 1 million square feet nightly, which equals to 3,000 square feet houses, or 6 3,000 square foot houses per staff member. With 229 acres maintained by 8 ground staff, or 29 acres per person, in addition to preparing the playing fields for school and community sports. With over 1,260,000 total square feet, our maintenance staff preserves the district investment in facilities. That helps and contributes to the education mission by ensuring facilities are comfortable, safe, and secure, which helps students, teachers, and staff to reach their potential. I would like to highlight some projects that we did in this past year, 2025-26. It was a very busy year for my department. So in the high school, we upgrade the high school library with the new carpet, painting, and the furniture. The boys' locker room, we replaced the lockers. The rubber tiles, we replaced in 2 staircases in the high school from A level all the way down to D. A new scoreboard was installed in the large gym. The new boilers were installed in the high school as well. In the middle school, the entire middle school campus was paved and restriped. A new gym floor was installed and the walls were painted. New bleachers were installed in the gym. Window screens were installed and window AC units were installed. In Central Valley Elementary, the new playground was built. The new lights and projector screen were installed in the auditorium stage. Window AC units were installed. New playground section was fenced off. That's part of the grassy part where students will use in the spring and the summer since we took the parking lot off for construction project right now. A new security vestibule was built and the new smoke detectors were added to the fire alarm system. In Pine Tree, the new security vestibule was built, a new playground was built, window AC units were installed, and the new smoke detectors were added to the fire alarm system. At Smith Clove, a new security vestibule was built, a new playground was built, a new handicap ramp behind the building was built, new boilers were installed, new floor was installed in 1 classroom, window AC units were installed, smoke detectors were added to the fire alarm system. In North Main Elementary, the carpet walls were replaced with sheetrock. A new playground was built, window AC units were installed, the front facade of the building was fixed, and the teacher lounge was renovated. At Sapphire, a new security vestibule was built, a new playground was built, a new floor in the kitchen was installed, and the window AC units were installed. 3 buildings, microcomputer center, bus garage, and grounds garage, a new fire alarm was installed. At the Harriman Center, we painted 1st and 2nd floor. The back parking lot was paved and restriped, and the smoke detectors were added to the fire alarm system. At the Education Center, smoke detectors were added to the fire alarm system. The capital project, which started in May of 2025, is still in the work in progress. It should be finished and ready for moving in by June of 2026. It looks great. I love it. We upgraded BMS system of Siemens and Honeywell district-wide. It's a system that is responsible for heating and ventilation in all the buildings. We were operating our Niagara software, which was from 1990. That software was no longer supported by Siemens. Same with Honeywell, so we had to upgrade. So right now, high school and the middle school is completely run by Siemens, the ZGO, which is a new program. So we finished with that project as well. We continue to oversee our 25-26 capital project and are working with the architects and construction managers for the next phase of the capital project. Proposed renovations for this upcoming year. At the high school in room 134, we're proposing to replace the cabinets and the countertops. In the middle school, to replace the water softener that is barely functioning. Smith Clove also to replace the water softener. At Sapphire, classroom 201 and 202 floor replacement, and the front sidewalk to be replaced. Going back to buildings and grounds, 1620 budget overview. We all see the numbers. I would like to highlight a couple things. So 2000 budget code, which is utilities, that's where we have natural gas, electric, water, sewer, trash removal, all those in the code. We're using the company called EPEX. They're helping us with the projection and estimate of the usage and the cost associated with it. And this year, the cost associated with utilities is going up a lot. So it's 8.14%, which the dollar change value is $262,503. The second one is the maintenance 1800 code. You see the change of 3.69%, which is $76,073. The reason in changing that as well, we bought 7 brand new boilers, which requires preventive maintenance agreement with train company to install the boilers. They will tune the boilers before the season, mid-season, and also do the water treatment for those boilers, which is crucial for those boilers to maintain them operational. Overall, the 26-27 budget proposed is $6,960,273, which is 2.16% increase, and dollar change is $147,256. With that said, our budget goal for 2026-27 is to continue to maintain the high level of cleanliness and maintenance in the district facilities, maintain the capital investment in district facilities and the fields, and continue to work on the capital project, which is really going to ramp up this summer, and I don't even want to think about next summer. With all that said, if there's any questions. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. As Patrick said, my name is Joe Tripotto, and for those of you who I have not had the pleasure to meet, I am your Director of Security. On behalf of the District Safety Department, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present our budget. To give you a little overview, I'll start with our staffing and experience. We have 59 full and part-time safety officers. Approximately half of them are retired from previous law enforcement careers. Many of our safety officers are bilingual and assist with interpreting, and all of our safety officers are AED and CPR certified. Our key responsibilities: we provide safety officers and a school resource officer at all 7 schools, as well as assigning a safety officer to the Education Center. Coordinate and supervise student arrival and dismissal procedures. Coordinate with first responders during emergencies. Provide coverage for athletic events, both home and away. Extracurricular activities, meetings, summer school, summer crusaders, and the summer spell program. In operational support, we recover missing Chromebooks, hand deliver administrative letters to parents, deposit cafeteria money and finance department receipts, conduct investigations, wellness checks, and residency verification, and we enhance district situational awareness. Our mission is to promote student achievement through a friendly, safe, orderly, and healthy school environment. On security systems and technology, we operate the visitor management system, manage the administrative component to anonymous alerts, monitor, document, save, and export video footage from the district's 369 security cameras, distribute, manage, and oversee the district's 342 handheld digital radios, cover the budgeting and distribution of the Yonder pouches. Recent emergency preparedness enhancements: we have completed the CRG mapping, which provides us with precise location and identification in all of our schools. These CRG maps are integrated with the Orange County Emergency 911 Center, as well as our local first responders. And lastly, some upcoming initiatives. We are presently installing Centegic's Crisis Alert, which will provide all of our staff and teachers with a wearable mobile panic button. And one more project will be our project with Day Automation, which will give us Verkada LPR cameras at our districts. As far as our numbers go, our $816,200 budget is $149,450 less than last year, and that's due to the upfront cost to Centegic's and Yonder that were covered in our last budget. Most of our other line items remain the same. With that, any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. As our mission statement indicates, that the academic achievement and success for all students in safe environment. Technology plays an integral role in that, supporting that mission statement. I want to start with thanking our students, staff, teachers, administrators, Board of Education, and my colleagues and Dr. Norman to support that. Technology, when it's used right, can change the trajectory of our students. And it is extremely important to understand that, because it has pros and so does the cons. What does the technology department functions? This chart shows, this graphic shows that there are 4 integral components of the technology: data, network, hardware, and instructional. Under the data, we support a variety of different tools in terms of student information systems, the accountability, the data privacy, backup, data migration, and ultimately the EdLaw 2D. The network, this is where the majority of sometimes our time goes: cybersecurity, variety of different hardware support, infrastructure, MDM policies. Our hardware, continuously improvising what we have, what our students have, keep a trajectory of what is the hardware market looks like in not just today, next 3 years, next 5 years, what are the support of the devices that we have, how can we enhance that device usage without enhancing too much in terms of the financial cost.
Instructional, New York State Computer Science and Digital Frequency Standards, professional learning activities, instructional support, and ultimately the student support. Overall, the technology budget is a cohesive approach, working with the teachers, technology committee, technology coaches, building administrators, union representation, along with my two colleagues of instruction, Dr. Morales and Dr. Hassler, and my other colleagues. It is a cohesive support. The process starts around November, December timeline, and it works up way. What tools we have? How are we using these tools? What is the usage of each educational tools looks like? Do we need those educational tools? What are the better tools out there? The same logic applies in terms of the hardware as well. And with the continuous improvement of this process, the total budget puts together, present to Cabinet, ultimately to Dr. Norman as a district superintendent, and then to you. Some of the technology initiatives that we are currently working, and it will continue as a part of the next year as well, distraction-free learning. This is where the big kudos to our students. Last year, this was a law, actually, in a way, but it started with the interesting initiative, and not many of us were sure how it's going to play out. But the big shout out to our students, parents, and our high school and middle school team and their teachers. This is something that we took not knowing how it's going to play out, and it's really, really working very well. We have a strong partnership with Yonder Company. We meet with their consultant frequently. They come on site, they visit our schools, they look at our processes, and they actually match our current processes with their best practices. They provide recommendation, and kudos to middle school and high school team. They implement those recommendations. The big piece also is Mr. Tripotto and his team, also the security officer plays a role. Now, if you have a student in a high school and middle school, you have seen them. It's a well-oiled machine. That was not the case on day one. We actually had, I remember still, 27 minutes late, the first day. Now, it's a very normal process for us. So this is when all of us to come together. This is the power of doing it right. We still have some interesting process in place. We are looking to go out on a survey in April-May timeline. We continuously monitor the data. We work with our student team that we meet through Dr. Norman and my colleagues. They provide us the support and suggestion and feedback, and we continuously improvise the process. We continue to enhance the STEAM initiative by adding 3D printers and look at the different usage of that 3D printing. We started a year before last year, the dual multi-factor authentication. We continue to enhance our cybersecurity. All our instructional staff and majority of the non-instructional staffs have the dual multi-factor authentication. Board members, you are next. So it's coming soon. Device replacement, we have a robust replacement cycle plan. We follow that as closely as possible. When we invest in upgrading the device in a timely manner, we get benefit of providing the latest and greatest technology, not to our staff, but also to our students. So there is a value to enhance and continuously improvise that. Infrastructure upgrade, all this technology looks good, provided that we have a robust infrastructure. So we continuously enhance our wireless access point. This year we replaced a variety of different schools. Middle school, high school, Central Valley, we upgraded to the latest Cisco access point. The next year we are looking to upgrade the Sapphire, Smith Clove, Pine Tree, and a portion of North Main. That will enhance the capacity of a wireless access point, enhances the productivity, ultimately better connectivity. We also look at the uninterpretable power supplies. This is kind of connected to the weather as well, like what is the uptime of our current infrastructure and how do we enhance the uptime ultimately when we get the generator. That's a different conversation. But that's really where we are going, to enhance the current capacity to make sure the infrastructure stay up as much as possible. Cybersecurity, our strategy is defense in the depth. We have a layer of the cybersecurity approach, so it's not just a one tool or one solution that will catch something. We work to the different layer of the approach, whether it's a community. We follow the variety of different communities that are either on the dark web or on the right web in terms of what's out there. What is the current political environment looks like? Sometimes when the political environment is not light, we all of a sudden see an uptick in some of the attacks. So we continuously monitor that. We also monitor best practices. We are a part of a national group called MS-ISAC, and it's connected to the CISA, which is the Cyber Insurance and Infrastructure Agencies. We continuously monitor that threat level and then adjust the practice based on the recommendation. We enhance our risk management. This is our second year of doing the CIS control. This year we have just finished actually the 6 to 12 7 to 14 the CIS controls. And this is the second year in a row that we do not have any significant recommendation. So that is the kudos to all of us. Cybersecurity is not just behind the scene technology responsibility. It is everybody's responsibility. So when you get those pesky phishing campaign email, that's important to understand and learn that it is a part of your enhancing by identifying and not clicking and inputting your information. Continuous improvement on the network, devices, and infrastructure. We monitor that what data we give it to our third-party vendors. What is their SOC 2 compliance? What information that they follow? Are they at Law 2D compliant? So this is a continuous improvement. Our purpose always is to identify the gaps, and then can we mitigate the gap? If we cannot mitigate the gap, can we buy more insurance to support that gap as well? We continue to monitor the data privacy and AdLaw 2D compliance piece. We have continuously doing the disaster recovery and incident response plan. We used to do this every 2 to 3 years. Now we do every year because cybersecurity is changing very quickly. As the AI infusion is coming along on a positive side, there is always another side of that as well. So we have seeing the sophisticated attack that allows us to mitigate the attack, but also enhances our disaster recovery and incident response plan. We follow the NIST cybersecurity framework along with their assessment and then recommendation. Phishing campaign for our students and staff. We are one of the very, very few school districts who provide the phishing campaign and do the phishing campaign to our students as well. A lot of organizations do that for our staff, but they're also equally at the risk if the student clicks something on that. So even though the student phishing open rate is higher, the value is in educating every single person who has pretty much the mailbox. We continue to monitor the mandatory cybersecurity training for all the staff members, including the board members as well, and that helps us to enhance the cybersecurity. And every time we bring the new software or new tool, we vet that through the data privacy and AdLaw 2D. What type of the information that they're collecting? Where is that information is stored? Is it on-prem? Is it off-site? Is it even U.S.? Is it the data center is outside the U.S.? So we consider all those different perspectives before we sign up the paperwork and then start giving them the data. So all this information ultimately support the 4 different budget codes in technology. So 2630 instructional, we have the increase in 3.89%. We are looking to add a couple of solutions in this one. One of the big one is the Passport for Good. That is going to enhance the tracking the portfolio and the hours for our middle school and high school. We've been piloting it this year. Our expectation is, our goal is to go live come next year. Data processing, it's a 3.94% increase, and this is directly related to the increased price of the hardware. I'm sure you're aware about not only tariff, but there is a shortage of the hard drives, the memories, the CPUs. That is a kind of an interesting side. Well, not as interesting. It is an interesting side effect of AI boom. So we are seeing that the Chromebook that we used to buy just about $250, now it costs 30% more. We are very proactive in ordering the equipment and then making sure that we have enough on hand in case of there is any disaster or issues. However, eventually this cost is going to catch up. So that cost, the increase is directly related to the increased hardware cost. Library media, our library media specialist, Kathy Gartner, she's in the audience as well. Thank you, Kathy, for your support. They do a really amazing job of making overall library as the media hub to us. There is a 3% increase in that. Central printing, we're doing very well. We have a fleet of copiers that we monitor. We continuously negotiate with our vendor by looking at the report on monthly and a quarterly basis. We see the usage. What are we printing? And sometimes even the cost of the printing is a little bit higher because of the different programs. We try to negotiate with our vendors because we are a big district and we do enjoy the benefit of that bargaining support from the different vendors. Konica Minolta is our service provider, and they're doing a really good job to supporting us as well. In fact, there is a decrease in that line because of proactive nature of working relationship with them. Also, big shout out to all our teachers who's sending more jobs to central printing, not just the local copier. So overall in technology budget, it is an increase of 3.46% increase. This slide shows us the technology landscape. I'm not going to read to you the whole thing, but think about the total number of devices. We are actually one of the top 5 network in terms of the size in the Orange County. We have just about 10,000 what we call nodes or the total devices on our network. And not too long ago, this number was just about 4,000. So something significant. We also monitor, support, and provide ultimately the support to all the different ed tech tools. That's 182 solutions. Help desk. So how do we enhance always the customer support perspective? We monitor and log pretty much all the tickets that come through, and sometimes my colleagues make fun about it. Hey, just open a ticket. But that's another way for us to enhance this. How many tickets are open? What is our response time? Do we see a common theme in terms of a number of tickets that are coming? And all this helps us to track our own performance, but also the customer service perspective, that how good or not so good we are in terms of providing support to our students and teachers. Just a comparison of the two numbers. Last year it was 63 and a change. Similar 6488, and then the bottom line shows about the students and staff. High school help desk, this is one of the flagship approach for us. This is our 5th year in terms of providing the support. In 2021-22 school year, this is really where we were going one-on-one and increasing the devices. There is no way for technology department to support all these devices by themselves. So we came up with the thought process about how do we leverage the support and use our students at the same time enhancing their career, college and career readiness as well. The program is in the 5th year. We have 22 students now that are increasing. Zoe mentioned few board meetings before about the help desk with the middle school. We are looking the possibility to expand the help desk currently only at the high school. See what it looks like for middle school and maybe even some outside organization. What it has served us is not only helping us in terms of device, but this is ultimately supporting the students. They come, they learn, they master the process, and now we are at the stage that the current seniors take the interview of the incoming students. So they also learn how not to just learn the technical skill, but they learn how to give the interview, but also how to take the interview. So it's moving really, really in the good direction. Big shout out to our high school administration and our high school librarians to keep supporting this initiative. Library media. Our media are really, the library media centers are the hub. This is where some of the magic happens. This is the one common place in the entire school that every single student visit. So we continuously enhance that. Our K-12 circulation, we monitor this number very well, and it's keep up increasing that. Big shout out to all our librarians to do an amazing job. We empower our students as the creator. We are enhancing our makerspace. Even though we are at the very early stage of that, it's the work in progress in that direction. And then leading from the library, our librarian, one of the librarians was the speaker in a national conference. We have a strong partnership through Dr. Hassler and library media specialist with our public libraries. We enhance with the book fairs, World Read Aloud Day. Last time when we had a board meeting, it was actually World Read Aloud Day, and then a variety of different PTA events that we support. Before I take any question, I have a short video that will give you just a bird's eye view of what does the technology looks like in Monroe-Woodbury.
as we all know, AI is kind of the next wave of technology. How are you managing in terms of helping the students along in terms of learning the tech, but keeping the parameters in place not only to keep them honest in an educational environment, but also on a cybersecurity end?
It's a great question. This is our third year of robust technology committee. Through the technology committee, we have developed guidelines. In fact, that should be posted on our websites as well. That is an attempt for us to bring the students in the conversation. Whether we acknowledge or not, students are using AI. Our intention always for last 2 or 3 years is empowering our students through the teachers. And last 2 school years, we have put a lot of emphasis on the AI and a professional development for our teachers. Not only our teachers, our support staff as well, because this is not just instructional tool, it enhances the productivity as well. However, when it comes to the instruction, the appropriate path is guiding the students. So, for example, one of our teachers, Mr. Garan, he teaches cybersecurity and computer programming here. His first day lesson looks like, hey, here is the guidelines for AI. Let's go through it, let's educate ourselves. And taking that negative connotation out of the conversation. AI is not only here, it's going to be here, and the way this is developing, it will be not just the AI, it will be AGI and ASI, the superintelligence. So the goal is to enhance and support our teachers, and then ultimately through them support our students. We also did a couple of months before we did a session for our parents through the middle school PTA. And our goal was to bring the parents into this conversation as well. Because this is not just the students, and it doesn't only contain in the school. When the student or child goes home, parents can actually have, because of the appropriate AI, ask the appropriate question. Majority, we all are parents. How was your day? That generally the student would, or kid would say, good, and that would be the end of the conversation. If you prompt it properly, the AI, it may ask you or tell you as a parent, ask the appropriate question that will improvise the conversation with your child. So that's a positive side, but we are also very mindful of the other side as well, and then not to get too much into the depth. The other layer that we continue to keep in mind is the data and the cybersecurity as well. So we are a Google for Education school district, and through the Google Gemini, that is 100% Ed Law 2D compliant, and we are one of the very few districts as an early adopter of the AI. This is 3 years now, and we continue to enhance that. I think the goal is to provide the appropriate PD, and then through the PD, support our teachers, and then support our students. I'll tell you one more thing. So a couple of years, maybe a year and a half before Dr. Norman, when he joined us, he introduced the GUSKI model. This is a PD model, a professional development model that is proven by the scientific research. We continue to take that model and then provide that with a feedback loop. So it's not just when we provide the training and support on a PD day. How are our teachers are using it? How are the main office secretaries who we have the AI session that they join, enhancing their workflow in supporting and applying what they learn? So there are ways to enhance. We continue to do that. We're working with my colleague, Dr. Morales and Dr. Hassler. Every time we send out the PD, we have a feedback form, and then we provide the better support next time. So in fact, we have one coming up in March 28th.
Thank you.
Any other question? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jessie Lazar. I'm Director of Transportation. I want to start by thanking the board tonight for allowing me to present the 2026-2027 budget presentation. I also like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to Dr. Norman, the cabinet members, for their continuing guidance and support. I also want to just take a brief moment to thank my staff, office staff, mechanics, drivers, monitors, and all of our substitutes. Their dedication and hard work make Monroe Woodbury transportation operations possible. So Contract Transportation Code 5540, cost drivers. So these are our two main cost drivers behind our transportation expenses. One, transporting resident students to non-public and yeshiva schools. One of our primary cost drivers continues to be transporting resident students to non-public and yeshiva schools. While enrollment in these schools is projected to increase by approximately 5% next year, the rate of growth has slowed, which suggested we are beginning to see stabilization. This is important because the cost of the structure, mainly on the daily per student rate, the overall expense directly reflects enrollment levels. We currently have 4 vendors to transport approximately 2,700 students. The second cost driver for this code is our out-of-district special education placements. For these, we use 2 vendors who provide transportation for approximately 210 students. They attend about 50 programs. We utilize the BOCES COSER provided through the Orange Ulster BOCES. With this cooperative service, it allows us to share our high-cost transportation for these out-of-district placements. We continue to rely on outside vendor source support. We struggled with the COSER in the past, but this current vendor has shown clear improvement with reliability and coordination. As part of our budget oversight, we will continue monitoring performance and overall cost impact. This is the breakdown of the contract transportation 5540 code. We have field trips at 83,000. Our displaced students is at 180,000. Our athletic trips, 457,000. Our non-public, our other non-public is 1,043,000. Our high-cost transportation and the COSER is approximately $5.1 million. And then our non-public yeshiva is approximately $8 million. So bringing the total contract transportation budget to approximately $14.9 million. Transportation Expenditure Code 5510. This does not include payroll. We've seen significant cost increase for parts and supplies. These increases are mainly due to inflations and tariffs. We also added to the consultant code 5510-449. This is for the on-bus nursing service for our out-of-district special education students. By including this expense in the transportation budget, we can maximize our eligible state aid. Our year-to-year budget comparison. So for the budget code of 5510, last year it was 1.7 million. This year we're looking at approximately 1.8 million. So this 5% increase is due to inflation, tariffs, and the on-bus nursing service. The garage building code 5530, last year's 305,000, this year's 310,000. This reflects a 1.66 increase. The cost basically is for the utilities and the insurance of increase. Our contract transportation budget code 5540. Last year it was 14.8 million. This year approximately 14.9. This is a 1.14 reflection of increase for our non-public yeshiva students. Overall, transportation increase for the department last year was 16 million. 848,000. This year's approximately $17.1 million. It's a difference of a 1.54 increase overall, which is $260,000. All right, so our school bus safety poster contest, we host this every year. The students of the district, a lot of them do participate. This year's theme was a safe ride, everyday heroes. So fasten your seatbelts. We have 2 students that are riding their way to state competition. So good luck to them and full speed ahead. Did I have Joe beat for the quickest presentation tonight, or was he quicker? No? Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. That concludes our non-instructional budget presentation for this evening, and we'll see you next week with the instructional folks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.